Hey, what's up, everybody? Nigeria Chambers here from Big Obel Media, and we are at WonderCon 2024. And I'm with the very talented, I'm so excited to talk to her.
Elle Favorule. I was the makeup department head on Ironclaw.
Now, Ironclaw, this is a tough one here because obviously getting a chance to see it early as a voting member of Film Critic Association, this was easily one of my favorite films. And I didn't go into a bias as a pro wrestling fan. It's just really a good film. And honestly, I almost label it not as a wrestling film. It's a family film. It's about a boy really trying to escape the traumas of his family, the generational traumas of his family, and some other little conspiracies with the family as well, too. But I really am baffled how so many people didn't take to it right away. The folks that are supposed to be the critics here.
Yeah.
I don't really want to put you on the spot, but just knowing that y'all really, A24 and you all putting together an amazing film, what has this ride been for you? Because the ones that love it are showing it, and the ones who obviously was asleep somewhere, shame on them. But what has the journey been?
You know, I think you go into these projects and you read the script, and so from beginning you're like, this is going to be cool, but I have no expectations. You know, you want to just do your best at what you're doing, and then you want to move on. Yeah. And then I saw that trailer, and I was like, oh my God, this is going to be an amazing film. Like, the trailer alone, I was like, I don't even know what to... Then I'm sitting in the theater in Dallas. I was lucky enough to go down there, and I just sobbed. Yeah. And it was like partly because it was a beautiful film that was beautifully acted and written and directed, but then also because I was so proud to have worked on such a story, and these actors just blew me away. Yeah. And the response that we got from the audience was just so unbelievable. To be in that moment of people seeing it for the first time was like, I'll never forget it. This has been a wild ride. I've been very, very fortunate and very, very grateful.
Any special moments? I mean, because beyond the star-studded cast, and because the Von Air families are still very much alive, and then all the other folks that have gravitated to it, any special moments with anybody throughout this?
I mean, getting to meet Kevin in Dallas was like...
he doesn't get much more relevant
like
than that.
Okay, there he is right there. Yeah. I created your character. Like, this is nuts.
Yeah.
But then also, I think there were a few things. One was seeing the reaction on like Instagram and TikTok of like the guys being like, going to see Ironclaw before, and then they'd be like, going to see it after, and then they're just sobbing, and I'm just like, oh my, we did that. Like, that's so cool.
Yeah.
And then I think they had posted a clip of Adele at her show saying that Ironclaw was her favorite film of the year, and I was like...
Wow.
And then Coco, after her tennis match, everyone's like, are you in a rush? And she was like, yeah, I'm going to see Ironclaw at 7 o'clock. And everyone was like, what? And so seeing those clips, I'm like, oh, this is much bigger than I could have ever anticipated.
Wow. Yeah. Two things I didn't even know about.
You have to see the clips. It's wild.
That's amazing. And like, you know, with a story that, again, kind of really built on family and trauma and tragedy. It's absolutely a ride. I'm going to get myself teared up a little bit, too.
I've seen it in theaters 3 times, and it got me every single time. Yeah. Because when you're working on it, you have to put blinders on. You can't really focus on the emotional part because you have to do your job. You know, and you really want to do the best you can, so you don't want to let emotions get the best of you. So you're sitting there in the theater, and it's almost like you're seeing it for the first time. I think the Dallas premiere for me was like in my head judging all of my work, and then the LA premiere I was like, oh my God, this is a beautiful film. Yeah. And then I was just like the waterworks every time. Amazing.
I absolutely, I mean, one, and listen, talk about our leads here in Zach and slip out of my head, but the transformation into Fritz is the one, the hardcore wrestling fans was just like, this is a 1-for-1.
Yeah.
Talk about that. Did it ever become too real for you, shall I say?
Holt he was in it from the beginning, and I love a character that wants to go for it. There was a makeup that I was really sad that didn't make it into the final cut. We actually took him, we did an old age makeup and took him to like, I think it was like the early 1990s, because he was like, I want to hit all these beats. Yeah. There was a moment where he was like, Fritz's ears really stick out. Let's see what that would look like. And so we tested these prosthetics that would like push out his ears, and we ended up, it was too distracting on film, and I never want people to be like looking at it like, that's makeup. But he was like, from the beginning, he was like, let's test it all. I want to try all the things. I want to do all of the things because I want to be Fritz. Yeah. And it was like infectious because you just wanted to like absorb his energy. You wanted to make it what he was making, Fritz, and it was like slightly terrifying, but also so magical to watch him work. He was so dedicated to his character. I like have the most respect for him.
Amazing. And you mentioned talking about Zach and Jeremy. You said it was kind of wow how they were able to just transform into wrestlers, but also they did really step into those characters as well too. One, talking about the stepping into the ring thing, did you ever think for a moment, like, maybe I should try a little something in there, take a little bump?
I worked on, I don't know if as a wrestling fan, do you remember the show Lucha Underground?
Of course I remember Lucha Underground.
So I worked on Lucha Underground, and back in the day, I remember the first time I ever stepped in the ring to do a touch-up on someone, and I was like, these wires are very hard.
Yeah.
I was like, you guys bump against this back and forth. And I was like, I will crack a rib.
Yeah.
I could barely figure out how to get, and then eventually you figure, you're like, oh, okay. And you get in and out of it. And you're like, okay, this isn't so bad. But once I actually realized what happens in that ring, I was like, I'm okay. I will stay vertical or out of the ring. I do not need to get thrown upside down, because that show was what really introduced me to wrestling.
Yeah.
And that was wild.
And I mean, honestly, nothing has duplicated. It came close to that. No. And people are calling for it back.
Yeah.
People are in demand of this. And there's folks trying to do some things, but Lucha Underground was a pinnacle. And that was what a time to be alive, right?
Robert Rodriguez really hit the nail on the head with that one, because he created a real world where it was like a scripted, these cool storylines, but then a reality portion where these people were watching. We had fans lined up down the block in LA to watch these matches every weekend.
Yeah.
And it was insane. I will never forget. We shot thumbtack matches, lightning, light bulb matches. I mean, it was nuts. It was nuts. So that was my first introduction. So then when I got to Iron Claw, I was like, okay, it's gonna be wrestling, but no one's gonna get hit in the head with glass. And then we ended up doing leather strap matches. And I was like, okay, this is just as crazy. Great.
And obviously Chavo comes back as well. So you're just like, oh boy, here we go.
I know you. I know how this is gonna go. Yeah.
So going back to Zach and Jeremy, because at a point, I would imagine you come in here with this pedigree, you know what you want to create. And maybe you think, they're professionals. They'll step into these characters. But they really, at this point now, I'm thinking they probably called up WWE and say, can I do something?
Yeah.
Was there ever an initial plan, more of a safety barrier in terms of how you wanted to handle them until you realized they were fully invested? You mentioned that, they very rarely use stunt actors.
Yeah.
So that means they were in there taking the bumps.
Yeah.
So was there a point then when you were just like, all right, if they're full in, then I'm full in? Was there ever a point where you kind of recognized that?
I mean, from the jump. First of all, when I saw all of them and how much muscle they had put on, and how the first, we had a camera test day, they had all flown in that morning.
Yeah.
And they jumped right into the ring. They were in it. And it was watching them take to it so easily.
Yeah.
I used to joke with Jeremy, I'm like, are you going to go home and tell your kids that you're quitting acting and you're going to be a wrestler now and you're just going to
no,
get on the road?
No, because we need the bears, so don't even.
I know. But so it was that was the joke. They all just had this natural ability. And so you're okay, if they're going to give it 100, I will never hold back, and I will do everything I can for them. And so, in terms of something as silly as the sweat, we were having to test lotions and oils and all these different things, because I want them to be safe in the ring. If they're going to be in there for 9 to 12 minutes, I don't want anything I'm doing to affect their performance or possibly hurt them. So you're in it. When you're in it, and you're you see how dedicated they are. I mean, they would come out of the match, they'd watch the thing, and then maybe they'd go rehearse some stuff and be like, all right, let's get this better. And then they'd jump right back in, and you're like, okay, everyone here is just so dedicated that you can't take your eyes off of it. And I had a feeling it was going to be something special, but I don't think I could have predicted what it turned into.
I spoke to the director during the press junket run. I said, we hear a lot about other folks who were involved, folks who filmed things and didn't make it to the film. At this rate now, I really not only need the extended version of the film, but I need all the BTS. Give us this all.
I know. I think the original cut I had heard him say was 3.5 hours, and I was like, I would like to see the rest of that.
Absolutely.
I would love to see all the things that we took out, because now that it's such a finished film, I couldn't think of a piece that is necessarily missing that I would love to see, because I feel all of the best bits are in there. But I'm also what's the other hour of footage? What's missing? I want to see it.
Well, listen, I would love. I know the fans are like, oh, we're going to talk about anything else really quick before we wrap up here because we can clearly talk about the Iron Claw for a couple of more hours. Future projects, whatever you may be able to talk about. And again, I'm very pro not getting anybody in trouble, but I would love to take the time if anything we can't talk about.
Luckily, mine has already been press released. I am working on a thriller that is set in LA, 1984, that I actually just found out I'm working with one of our other
the other half of the story here.
Called Lips Like Sugar, and I'm really, really excited. Woody Harrelson, Owen Wilson, it's like a star-studded cast, so I'm really, really excited.
Woody and Owen together,
yeah,
oh boy.
I'm really, really pumped. I think it's going to be a lot of fun in the 80s in LA. I'm like, bring it on, I'm ready.
Let's do it. Elle, thank you so much for your time
you.
and congratulations
It's a pleasure.
thus far.
Thank you so much.
We got to do this again soon,
I know.
you know?
Great talking to you.